Okay, so before I jump into today's video, I just want to talk about something that really bugs me. It's something I've discussed before in relation to Facebook groups and in relation to content creators who come and watch my content and then put out the same video essentially the next day and claim that it's their wonderful idea. But I want to talk about people who come and watch my videos and then go into someone's chat the next day and present an idea that I have, or a discovery that I have made, as their own remarkable discovery and take credit for it. It's not about the fact that they are taking credit for that. It's about what happens. I have a small channel. I've only got a bit over 6,000 subscribers. My videos only get 1,000 or so views. So what happens when someone watches one of my videos and, for example, I point out that actually Janie has mentioned that she was raking at night time at 10 o'clock in the dark. So when someone goes onto another person's channel and that person in their live stream has nearly as many views as what I have from like 12 hours of my video being online, and that person is going to get thousands more views on that video, when you go into their chat and you make it look like it's your startling revelation and that content creator takes ownership of that startling revelation and nobody gives the itty-bitty content creator any credit for their discovery, then all of a sudden people will be talking all about how this content creator made this amazing discovery. Go check it out. And suddenly this content creator, this big content creator, because so many people see their content, people are going to be recommending, go and check it out. Guess what he found? That content creator gets heaps more views while I'm not getting any credit for it and I don't gain any views from it. Now, I know that sounds a little bit narcissistic and a little bit selfish, but it's actually incredibly rude when someone works really, really hard to build up a channel for anyone to run with their ideas and claim them as their own and not give them the credit that could help them to build their channel, help them to get more views. I do this for the victims. I'm in this for Jack and Lily. I'm in this for Belinda. I'm in this for Chelsea. And I would like to be able to grow my channel to a point where I can continue to make this kind of content, where I can actually reach a point where I'm earning enough off my channel to make it worthwhile for me to continue. But when people are constantly stealing my content, stealing my ideas, that's not helping my channel in any way. In fact, I've seen it backfire in the past where I have pointed out something in my channel that hasn't been noticed or discussed before. And then someone else runs with it on their channel, and then down the track, I'm the one that gets accused of not having original ideas. So I'm sorry if I sound pissed off, but I actually am. So next time you want to feed your ego by taking credit for something that I have raised on my channel, just stop for a moment and consider what the implications are for that. what it is that you are doing to affect my channel when you do these sorts of things. Now, I do apologise for starting out that way, but I just feel enough is enough. There's 2 content creators who do often plagiarise my content. One, 90% of the time will give me credit for that, and I suspect that the 10% of the time when they don't is possibly because maybe they haven't actually seen my video and they've been emailed by someone who has done exactly the same thing, watched my content and emailed them and said, guess what I've just discovered, without giving credit. So I'm giving that other content creator the benefit of the doubt. But I know there is definitely one who, if you have a look at the pattern, you will see that for quite some time that content creator was putting out videos within 12 hours of mine that were basically a repeat of what I had just said. Anyway, moving on from that, I want to talk about today's video. So, we've all spoken about the sliding door quite a bit. And, okay, we know that that story is a load of BS. We know, or we can be pretty certain that the children were already gone on Friday morning. They did not wander out through the sliding door and disappear. That is not what happened. But when we are fed lies like this, I think it is important to actually highlight the fact that they are lies and to show the inconsistencies and to show why they are lacking credibility. So in this video, I'm going to go back to the sliding door again. I'm going back to the very beginning. I do think it's worth asking why they decided to go with the sliding door narrative, why they decided to throw that in as this is definitely how the children got out. It's silent, we can't hear it. And I'm going to circle back to that later on in the video.
We've heard a lot about the patio door.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go see that.
Sure.
So this is the patio
This
door
is the patio door
that Jack and Lily would have
that Jack and Lily came out of.
Okay. And so tell us why we've heard about the patio door.
Because everybody's saying on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok that the patio door makes a noise. And why they didn't hear the door open. The bedroom is back there. Okay?
That far window.
The
there.
last window is the bedroom.
And so they would have come out this door.
They would have come out this
that
door.
morning.
Yes.
And then they went and played on the swing set.
Yes.
So there will be some repetition in this video in terms of things that I've already discussed. Although a lot of it is stuff that I said quite some time ago, so can't be any harm in me repeating myself here. So Janie specifically asked them to film this door being opened and closed. And she specifically asked the reporter Ali to be the one to do so. Because according to Janie, doing it that way meant that people couldn't accuse her of shutting it super quietly or anything like that. So instead, she had the reporter do it, and it is part of her interview. Now, what's interesting about this, first of all, we see the brand new decking, super wide steps there, railings for going down the stairs, all that sort of thing. None of the clutter that we can see in the photos from around the time the children went missing. It looks almost respectable. But there's a few more things we get from this. First of all, from watching the reporter as she closes the door, you will note that she actually had to physically lift the handle a little bit to get it to latch. That door had dropped on its rollers. So it wasn't easy to close. And those children wouldn't have been able to close the door properly. They wouldn't have had the strength to slide it and then lift it up to latch it. It's only a small movement, but you can see that that door had to be lifted to be latched. But of course, the other takeaway from this part of the interview is that when asked what the significance of the door is, rather than saying, well, because this is how the children got out, she doesn't even think to mention that. For Janie, the significance of the sliding door is the fact that people are criticising online that they have said that it was silent, and people are saying it's not silent. So the whole point of that exercise was to prove that the door was silent, not to show people that this is the location where the children probably got out. So here, the first thing on her mind should be, this is where the children got out, not this is me showing you that it's quiet so that people stop attacking me on Facebook and saying that no, the door isn't silent. Which straight away says to me that it's a complete lie. This interview was done barely 2 months after the children went missing. It should have been at the forefront of her mind that these children wandered off, got out through the sliding door and wandered off and disappeared. But at the forefront of her mind is wanting to make sure that people understand that she's not lying. So I want to have a look at the timeline for this narrative and figure out how important was this story about the sliding door for the original narrative. And of course, why is this story of the sliding door so important? I should probably also say, sorry, I've got the evaporative cooler going in the background again. You're going to hear quite a bit of that as we head further into summer. I will, as soon as I can afford to, buy myself a portable air conditioner that is silent. So, A, I'm not roasting because I don't think I can survive another Bendigo summer with 40 degrees heat. But also so that you guys don't have to put up with the noise. And this is actually fairly quiet. When the weather really kicks in and we get above like 35 degrees and I've got to run the actual air conditioner, you're going to hear it. So let's start with Malaya's statement that she made originally with the RCMP. Now, this is a summary of what she said on the 2nd, the 3rd and the 4th, according to the documents. It is possible that there is information excluded here, but they do say further in the document that the next bit of information that I will read through later was a clarification, so I'll come back to that. So this is her original statement to RCMP. Around 9:40am she heard silence and told Daniel she didn't hear the kids. They got up together and checked in the living room and outside. Then started yelling for them. When they didn't hear any answer, she called 911 at 10am. And then going down a bit further, you've got Daniel walked around yelling for them to see if he could get a reply, and eventually took her pathfinder to go look for them in the woods. Janie was also out looking for them. She had the baby, so she could not go look. And in a paragraph lower down, she said Lily and Jack's boots were gone. Lily was wearing size 13 rainbow pink boots and Jack was wearing size 10 blue dinosaur boots. So in this early statement to the RCMP, there is no comment here about how she believes they got outside. There is no mention of the sliding door. Okay, so before I move on to what was said in a later statement, I'm going to look at what Daniel first of all said. So this is from what Daniel said between the 2nd and the 4th of May. Daniel said he was in the bedroom with Malaya and Meadow, who were in bed with him. Lily came in a couple of times, but he did not check his phone to see the time. The television was on and it was daylight outside. And then we get all that stuff he says that's like trying to make him sound like the caring, responsible parent and looking out for Meadow and not wanting to disturb her and all that yada yada. But if we go down to the next paragraph, Daniel said he got up and he didn't hear the kids. He thought it was only a few minutes since Lily last poked her head in the door. He went out and saw the back sliding door was closed. The kids didn't usually close it when they went outside. Their boots were gone. Now, we don't know which interview this last bit was introduced. Possibly in one of the latter ones. And based on what we know of Daniel, I'm guessing it went something like this. They were probably asked, well, how did the children get outside? Which then made them realise we forgot to add that part to the script. And so Daniel has done his usual Daniel thing of trying to deflect from his lie by offering a little bit of extra. So, well, that their boots were gone, and I would have thought that they'd gone out the back sliding door, but it was closed, and they don't usually close that door. So I don't know. Trying to make sure that the person interviewing them still drew the conclusion that they must have gone out that door. The reason why I believe this was in one of the latter interviews, from the 2nd to the 4th, is because he has thrown that bit in about the kids don't usually close the door when they went outside. I think it was at this point when they were starting to do the little abduction shimmy, because on the second day, that's when major crimes became involved. The fact that this guy has been interviewed 3 times in the space of 3 days shows you that they were already looking very, very closely at him. So in order to try and deflect, he's thrown this bit in about, well, I would have thought they would have gone out the back door, but, you know, it was closed and they don't normally close it. Janie's statement simply has them outside on the swings laughing, which we never hear her mention that any other time. And then she hears Daniel yelling. So there's no mention from Janie here of anything to do with the sliding door. So Malaya finally introduces the sliding door on the 9th of May. So here she's saying that they couldn't have got out the front door because there was a wrench on top of it. So Daniel said they must have gone out the back sliding door. And then she says pretty much the same as Daniel. The door was shut, but the kids would normally leave it open if they went outside because it was so heavy. But she adds in, there are times when they would close it. I'm guessing that add-on, there are times when they would close it, was probably in response to a question of, well, why was it closed this time? How can you be so certain that that's what happened if that door was closed? So I'm going to bypass Daniel's statement about the front door for now and come back to it. But we know that on the 9th of May he was saying pretty much the same thing. Oh, they couldn't possibly have gotten out the front door because there was a wrench stuck in it, so they wouldn't have been able to open it. Now we know Malaya was actually talking about that sliding door on the 3rd because that's when she did her interview.
What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens, and they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And
so we know that one pretty much off by heart, you know. They went out the sliding door, which was pretty much silent, and they were playing outside, but we didn't know that at the time. We didn't hear the door, we didn't know they were playing outside. Now, what's interesting is that, aside from what he said in his interviews with RCMP, Daniel let Malaya's statement stand on its own for a very long time. he didn't come out and discuss that door. Not until he did an interview with the Globe and Mail for their podcast.
Yeah, Lily came into the room multiple times. I mean, me and Malay and the baby were just in the bedroom. And Lily came in multiple times. So, you know, I seen her that morning. And Jack was out playing in the kitchen, I'm guessing, and they slid open the back sliding door. It's almost like silent to hear it slide open. But they slid it open. The boots were right beside the door. And just proceeded to, I'm guessing, play outside, and then they must have just got out to the back fence, and then they were gone.
So that's got to be one of his least polished interviews. He's stuttering right through. He can't get a rhythm going with what he's saying. And he's throwing in, I'm guessing, and must have, left, right and centre. So first of all, the lack of fluency in his speech tells us that this is a complete load of hogwash. Because, like I've said many, many times before, the brain just does not like to lie. So it's not coming out like a natural sentence, because the brain is just throwing all these blocks up in front of him to stop him. Don't say that, it's a lie, it's not the truth. If it was the truth, he would be able to say it so easily. It would just come off his tongue just really easily. Well, they must have got out through that sliding door, but we didn't hear it. And the unusual thing is that usually they leave it open, but this time they didn't. See, now he's forgotten to mention that they closed the door. He's forgotten that part of the narrative because there's been a gap in time. This is something that he does so frequently. When there's been a gap between retelling, he forgets parts. But it's clear that he's been challenged over the narrative of them getting out through that door, because he's throwing in, I'm guessing, and must have. So what he's doing here is, I'm giving you this story, but I'm going to add these qualifiers here. I'm guessing this happened. This must have happened. So that down the track, you can't accuse me of lying, because I'm only speculating here. I'm putting it out there and hoping that you will latch onto that story and forget the parts where I said I'm guessing and must have, and take it as a solid story. This is 100% what happened. This is a variation on the technique that him and Janie use, where they infer something and allow the listeners to come to the conclusion. It's only after Dingbat came on the scene that Daniel started adopting Dingbat's approach of basically throwing out those bold-faced lies. Okay, I probably should apologise here. I realise that my audio is possibly a little bit on the dodgy side today. We've got that triple combo that is so not good for asthmatics. So we have heat combined with wind combined with pollen. So right now I'm literally only able to record a sentence at a time before I have to stop and breathe. So here Daniel has been extremely hesitant when it comes to giving out this story about the sliding door. The only other time we've heard it discussed is when he was on that turkey show.
Yeah, and so, some folks are saying that, they may have walked out the back sliding glass door. That seems like the only logical explanation for them to have exited the house. You had something on the front door, correct?
Yeah, on the front porch, there's the front porch door, and then there's the inner door on the front. And I know for 100% they did not go out through that door. So, because when I went and got the keys and tried to come back into the house, couldn't get into the front door, right? I had to go around from the back. And then I went out through the front door.
Gotcha.
So that's how I know they did not exit through the front. They exited out through the back sliding glass door.
Now, I've read in the documents that Malaya said something to the effect that the kids didn't always close the door behind them when they went outside. It kind of made it seem like there was times that they did. Is that accurate, or was that something that when they went outside?
The percentage that they would actually close the door behind them, it's very minimal.
But they haven't done it in the past, though, correct?
It's usually I mean, Daniel, even I don't close the door all the way sometimes.
Oh, okay. And so it was all the way shut.
Yeah, it was all the way shut. I mean, fully all the way shut.
That is weird.
So, and
Is
and some of the investigators, when they were here, they came all the way down to the bedroom, sat on the bed, and we had a dead quiet. And they tried to open up the door. Well, I think it was Mom who went out there and opened and just closed the door, and you couldn't hear it from inside the bedroom, sitting on the bed with the bedroom door shut.
Is the door heavy?
It is heavy, but when the kids got their hands on it, they would have to put both hands on it and they could slide it closed.
Okay.
So it is possible for them to close it. They just need to, work at closing it.
So first of all, we again get that too much time in between narratives, so that Daniel forgot his story about the wrench with the front door. Instead, he just throws out, I know for 100% he didn't go out the front door, which he has just offered this excessive explanation where he's essentially saying it was locked, but he over-explained. So essentially what we can take away from this is that he definitely wants us to look away from the front door, but he's forgotten the original narrative. Essentially, if you translate all his statements into thoughts, what he would have been thinking when he was making these statements was, look at the sliding door, look at the sliding door, don't look at the front door, look at the sliding door, look at the sliding door. Just to do a Janie thing there. And the thing is, Malaya joined in with that. For some reason, it was just so important to them that we do not look at the front door. We start with the wrench narrative, but by the time Daniel got around to doing the drunk turkey show, he'd forgotten about the wrench and it was just that the door was locked. You'll note also that pushing the idea of the sliding door being closed has been so important that he's maintained that every time he's retold this story. Him and Malaya both pushed that. It was closed. But then Daniel was so busy trying to appear to be connected on some level with this turkey guy, while also emphasising this whole thing of they don't usually close it, that I think he shot himself in the foot. Because when asked about Malaya's statement that they don't normally close the door, he starts with saying that it's a minimal percentage of them closing the door behind themselves, and then proceeds to shoot himself in the foot. Even I don't close the door all the way sometimes. Now I am skipping over bits here because I have discussed this quite a bit previously. But I do feel that when he says that if they had tried, they could have shut it, that sliding door was a bone of contention in that household. And I'm going to come back to that shortly, but I want to play some audio from Janie first.
When he heard the kids yelling, or kids talking, I should say, sorry, talking, my dog was in bed with me, and I told him, it's the kids outside playing. He shut right up. Then he barked again when Daniel was yelling out the back door for the kids. I didn't pay any attention to him because I thought he was telling the kids to get into the house. And besides, Jack lets my chickens out. And I let my chickens out at 7 o'clock that morning. So Jack has a habit of going around, moving stuff, and the chickens get out underneath the pen.
So the suggestion here from Janie is that it's not uncommon for Jack to get into things when he's outside and do things like letting the chickens out. And in fact, it's so commonplace that she ignored the fact that Daniel was yelling. She's essentially telling us here, Daniel's always yelling at them, so I ignored it. So here's the thing. They have well and truly established that Lily and Jack weren't very good at closing that sliding door. And while Malaya claimed in her interview that they were always supervised outside, statements from both her and Daniel suggest that actually if they were going out and they were known for not closing the door, that then they were obviously going out on their own. Because if they were going out with an adult, the adult would close the door behind them. Now, I've said this previously. Meadow was, I believe, 16 months old when the children went missing. Presuming that she was developmentally delayed and was not walking at that age, she would have had to have been crawling, surely. And had she got out that sliding door because it was left open by her siblings? That deck is a death trap for a toddler. Even before we look at how easy it would be for her to fall off the side of those steps, we just have to look at all the crap that's on that deck. If she grabbed the wrong thing to try and pull herself up, it really wouldn't have ended well. We've heard that Daniel's kids claimed that Malaya would lock them in their rooms. We've seen the lock on the fridge. There were limitations placed on these children, and yet somehow, apparently, they were allowed to go outside and leave a door open with a toddler in the house who could suffer serious injuries, if not from death, were she to get out through that door. You have a 4-year-old who allegedly would get into things and do things like letting the chickens out when he wasn't supposed to. Another thing which certainly suggests that they weren't supervised when they went outside. So there were absolutely no measures in place to prevent them from heading out there and leaving that door open. Now, recently I was going through news clips, and in one of the news clips from early in May, you could see a shot of Malaya that wasn't included in her interview. She was sitting on those steps, coming off the deck, and I made a mental note of it, along the lines of, oh, well, you know, there's something different. We haven't seen that shot of Malaya. But I didn't think anything more of it until someone sent me a screenshot from that same news clip. Apparently it was played on, there's a new channel called Hunter S Investigates or something. I haven't had much of a chance to have a look at it, but it looks like it could be quite a good channel. So I was showing this screenshot because of Malaya's skin and because of her expression. She didn't look like a mother who was worried about her children missing. She didn't look upset. She looked more like she was regretful over something that had happened. But they actually sent me a few screenshots. But the other thing they pointed out was that her skin didn't look overly healthy, and they were speculating that maybe she was into the same sort of stuff as Daniel. But for me, when I stopped and took the time to look at this, as opposed to just glancing at it in a news interview, there was something that stood out to me in a big way. And that is that directly behind Malaya, there's a gate. That back patio had a gate on it. Now that gate clearly has to be there, at the very least, to prevent Meadow getting down those stairs. Meaning that it can't be a gate that you can just push open. Can you imagine a toddler pushing that gate open and falling down the stairs? So it has to be a gate that can be secured. It's funny how they have focused so much on this sliding door, and they've gone over the top to make sure that we focus on the sliding door. Daniel claims that they had investigators check out how quiet the sliding door was. Janie had Ali demonstrate how quiet the sliding door was when she did that CBC interview. And we've had it just pushed from day one. The children must have gotten out that sliding door. Not once did anyone mention anything about a gate. Not once did anyone say, unfortunately the gate was left open. Or for that matter, whether or not they did close the gate or open the gate. There's no talk about if they were capable of opening this gate. Is this one that they would have needed an adult to open it for them, to allow them to get outside? Like locking them out of the fridge and locking them in their rooms? Or is it one that they could actually open themselves? I would have thought that had these children truly gone out that sliding door, that this gate would have featured in the narrative. You know, something along the lines of, well, they shut the sliding door, but they didn't bother to close the gate. Or they shut the sliding door, and they even shut the gate behind them. Or, I wish we'd thought to shut that gate the night before, but we didn't because we were tired and because it was open they were able to get out. But we didn't even know this gate existed. Now here's the thing. We know from Janie's interview and from a few of the earlier news clips that in order for the children to get to that little fort, they had to come up this way, past where that dead car is, and up the track on that bank there. Also, if we were to establish that they allegedly were walked down to the road and picked up by someone, again, they'd have to go down the driveway. Based on the narratives, these are the only two ways, apparently, that the children could have gone when they went missing. And yet, they're really pushing hard that these children went out the back sliding door. Wouldn't you, when you're making up this kind of narrative, just come up with, oh, they went out the front door? But instead, not only do they push that they went out the back sliding door, but they make sure that, 100%, they couldn't get out that back front door because there was a wrench there, so you couldn't open it. And then when Daniel forgot about the wrench, he just says it was locked. So why push so hard to make people believe that they could have only gone out that back sliding door? To make people believe that there's no way they could have gone out the front door? And is that the reason why they didn't mention that little gate before you go down the stairs? Because that would make it harder to argue that they went out that back door. So why are we expected to focus away from the front door? Okay, so now I'm going to look at Daniel's statement from the 9th of May. And I've spoken about this before, but the thing that stands out for me here is that he's talking about jamming a wrench or a bolt in there to make sure the door didn't open. So he can't even figure out his story here. You would know what it was that you had shoved in that door to make sure it didn't open. You're not going to forget. But he goes on to say, and this is complete contradiction to him talking about having to unlock it with the turkey guy, but he says that morning he had to rip the door open to get out, and the metal piece fell on the floor. So he knew there was no way they could have gone out that way. To me, it sounds like he is trying to explain a damaged door here. He is essentially saying here he ripped it open so hard that it broke. Now, I mentioned this previously, and I said this was a red flag for me. But then there was something else that stood out to me in combination with this that made me wonder, is this the reason why they want us to focus on that back sliding door?
So it had nothing to do with a black eye?
No.
What's the story behind the black eyes? Because I think it's been something a lot of people have been asking about, that there's a multiple black eyes.
Yeah.
What would you want to clear up about that?
I mean, the black eyes, it definitely was not from me. Daniel would come out and say that first. Come out, because I know the world thinks that, and that's absolutely heartbreaking for me to be accused of that stuff. Because as you can see, and even in the court documents, Malaya refers to as Daniel was an involved parent, and he didn't even physically discipline the kids. If I'm not going to physically discipline them, why would I ever abuse them? That's the first thing. But the most of the black eyes were probably from Lily, because, and I don't want to say 100%, because Jack was really clumsy too. Like when we used to take him through the woods, he would fall a lot. I remember one time too, Jack ran right into the doorknob on the door.
So first of all, he's over-explaining big time here. Trying to put aside this suggestion that he was violent with the children. But we know otherwise. If you remember, in the news article that mentioned this particular photo, which is from a school excursion in December of last year, Daniel would not give an answer as to how Jack got this particular black eye. Now, he's doing a lot of over-explaining. He's also doing a lot of victim blaming here. He gets black eyes from Lily. And Jack's so clumsy. He fell over in the woods a lot. And he even ran into a door handle. My gosh, it is such a cliched thing. These women that go to the emergency room and ran into a door handle. And here he's saying Jack's so clumsy he ran into a door handle. Now, I still firmly believe that whatever happened did so out in the driveway. But I can't help wondering if there's a bit more that was going on. We have him talking about Jack running into a door handle. And like Janie, Daniel's stories come from somewhere. Why did that come to mind so quickly? Why was that the thing that he immediately thought about when confronted about, are you violent with these children? And does this connect with him saying that essentially the door was damaged because he had to rip it open because of a bolt and a bit of metal fell out? Does this connect with the reason why they don't want people to actually take a close look at that front door? Now, I first of all questioned if Jack was even tall enough to run into a door handle. So I went looking through all the photos I have of Lily and Jack, but I couldn't find any photos that had any inside doors in the background. But then I found this image in the video of Janie, and the door behind her is clearly a door that had once been a front door. And boy, has it seen better days. Looks like it's been put out there because it was no longer good as a front door. So, is Daniel the sort of person that does throw children into front doors? The sort of person that causes damage to doors when he throws a temper? Would the front door of this trailer tell a story of someone with a bad temper? Someone who is likely to completely lose the plot and cause serious damage to structures, or to maybe throw children against doors? I'm just putting this out here because I just cannot figure out why there's so much emphasis on that backsliding door. Like I said, I still believe that whatever happened, it did so in the driveway. I also believe that it happened on Thursday evening, not Friday morning. But that front door would have been so much more convenient for the narrative that they were pushing. So why the need to steer everyone to the back sliding door? And why were we never told about the gate?
We've heard a lot about the patio door.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go see that.
Sure.
So this is the patio door.
This is the patio door
that Jack and Lily would have.
that Jack and Lily came out of.
And so tell us why we've heard about the patio door.
Because everybody's saying on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok that the patio door makes a noise, and why they didn't hear the door open. The bedroom is back there. Okay.
That far window.
The last window is the bedroom.
And so they would have come out this door.
They would have come out this
that
door.
morning.
Yes.
And then they went and played on the swing set.
Yes.
Now, someone asked a while ago, how come they didn't consider this door? And I originally thought that the screen door on the outside was fixed in place. But when I look at it, it looks like it doesn't even shut properly. However, if Janie is pointing to the end room as being Malaya's and Daniel's room, and she's saying the children's room is right next door, would this door be in Malaya and Daniel's room? Or is there like a laundry between Malaya and Daniel's room and the children's room? I'm going to speculate that that door was probably never used, but it is worth making note of its existence. So I'm going to finish with a few questions. The first one obviously is, why so much emphasis on the back sliding door? Why is that the thing that they needed to push for their narrative? Particularly given that it would have been far more convenient for their narrative for the children to have snuck out the front door. And why, given how much they're pushing this backdoor narrative, have we never been told about that gate? Because that should actually factor in big time. That should be something where if they're talking about the children getting out through that door, then they should be talking about that gate, mentioning that the gate was open, or the children even shut the gate, or we forgot to shut the gate the night before. But there's no mention of it whatsoever. They were so fixated on giving the narrative about the children getting out the sliding door that they left out a crucial element, which again shows us that the whole story is complete utter BS. And of course the other question is the front door significant? Why is it so important to establish that they couldn't possibly have gone out that front door, and that we shouldn't even bother considering or looking at that front door? So I'm going to leave you with those questions. I'm going to be really interested to read what you guys have to say about this. So on that note, thanks for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. And also, of course, please hit the like button. I get a lot of views, but the ratio of views to likes isn't as big as I would like. And it does help my videos get out there. It does help me grow my channel. So please hit that like button. And of course, please do leave a comment below. So thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.